Hello everyone, please confirm if I'm audible. So today we will start with the networking concept, and to begin with the networking concept, first we will have to understand the basic of networking and the OSI model. So in OSI model, we will have several layers. We will learn about each layer in today's class. What are the roles and responsibilities of each layer, how they are connected to other layers, how the modularity is achieved in OSI model, how the entire system works, and what are the advantages of having OSI model, what is the architecture of OSI model. All those things will be answered in today's class. Post that, once we understand the responsibility of every layer, some layers will need more detailed responsibility things, means you have to know some more technical aspects of some of the responsibilities which some of the layers are having. So we will understand and prioritize according to it, and mostly from the perspective of data link layer, network layer, and transport layer, we will have to look into the responsibility in little more detail. Then we will have the security and backup thing, and this is all that we need to cover in the networking concepts. So I will start with the networking concept, and I have made you understand what all things you need to cover in the networking chapter for NABARD specifically. Even not talking specifically for NABARD, if you're targeting any other exam, these are the things that you should be knowing. The only thing that makes the difference is how deep you should go in one topic. So that is something that we will see when we will actually go layer by layer to read every responsibility of the layer. Now, first we have to understand the OSI model itself. So what is OSI model? First, I'm giving you a theoretical introduction about it. So basically, there is an organization called as International Standard Organization. It is a multinational body, and you don't need to remember when it was established, what it does, no. But it is good to have a knowledge that when we say OSI model, who is behind the OSI model, and what is the basic ideology of having it all. So this particular multinational body, which is ISO, this actually works for the agreement on the international standard. You might have heard about many ISO ratings and ISO standards. So OSI is one of them, which is actually for the aspects of network communication. So in the late 1970s, it was introduced to have a kind of a standard agreement or standards for communication between the devices, and to make it like uh, what you can say, to make it more simplified and modular and as well as a standard, this particular organization ISO came up with the OSI model, which is called as Open Systems Interconnection Model. Okay, now this particular open system model is having set of protocols. Protocols are nothing, they are just the set of rules that you have to follow when you are operating in any particular environment. So here what happens, you will have the OSI model where you will have set of protocols, and these set of protocols will allow the systems to communicate regardless of what the underlying architecture is. So basically, you know that you have different kinds of architecture. It can be cloud based, it can be of normal, totally link to link based, topologically based, wireless, wired. The architecture may be different and maybe hybrid. So this particular international model says that whatever protocols we are having here in the part of the OSI, they should be able to perform regardless on which architecture they are being applied on. So it should be standard, it can be applied over any kind of architecture. And the purpose of this OSI model is to show how the communication between different systems actually is going to happen without changing any underlying need of hardware or software. So even if there is any change in the hardware or software of the system in the architecture, it is not affecting and it will not affect the communication protocols that are being held over it. Okay, remember, OSI model is not a protocol, it is set of protocol. It is not a protocol itself, it is a kind of model where you have different layers and those layers have set of protocols. So OSI model is not a body. OSI model is not a protocol. OSI model is just a model and an abstract model for understanding and designing a network architecture that is flexible, robust, and interoperable. Right? So this is all that we need as an introduction for the OSI model. If somebody asks you to explain the OSI model, this is what you have to tell them. People start by saying OSI model consists of 7 layers and these things. But before that, you should be having a kind of introduction of the OSI model like this, which actually give you an edge over others when you write something in your technical answers, moreover in the descriptive or in the interviews as well. So is this introduction clear to everyone? Any doubt in understanding the OSI model? Is it clear? Okay. So now we have to understand the framework of the OSI model. So OSI model is a layered framework, and here we have different layers basically, and in all we have 7 layers, which have definite boundaries and defines a part of what particular responsibilities are in the domain of which layer. So basically, it is kind of division of work which happens across the OSI model in between the 7 layers. We have 7 layers, namely physical, data link, network, transport, session, presentation, and application. So which one to say as the first layer? It is the physical layer. Which one will go as the 7th layer is the application layer. So you have to keep this number only in your mind. When I say 7th layer, you have to think it of as application layer. When I say the first layer, it is physical layer. So the order is also very important, and it is like this only, it will never change. So you have to remember the layers in this order only. Physical layer, on top of physical layer there is one layer, data link layer. On top of that, network layer, then transport, then session, then presentation, and then application. So these are the 7 layers of the OSI model. Now, how does this OSI model helps to communicate different systems? So let's say we have device A and device B. Definitely device A and B might be directly connected to each other, either wired mode or in wireless mode, or it may be connected through some intermediate nodes, means with some help of some routers, switches, gateways, hub, bridges, anything it can be, which are called as the network devices. So there can be any kind of system. Either A and B could be directly connected to each other, or it can be some set of nodes, intermediate nodes operating in between A and B and letting A and B communicate to each other. It can be any system. Now, both the sides of A and B will have this particular architecture for the OSI model from layer 1 to 7, and how they actually communicate. So basically the communication of each layer happens to that layer. When we have device A and we have device B, the layer corresponding to device A, specific layer of A will communicate to specific layer of B. Meaning what? If I say application layer, so application layer of device A will be in communication to application layer of device B, right? Because they know each other. The application layers, uh, whatever are the responsibilities, whatever are the checks and balances, everything, whatever the system needs to perform in at level 7 will be same at device A as well as in device B. So they are having the same set of communication protocols. So it will have a peer-to-peer protocol connection. It will operate on the peer-to-peer level. Basically, what will happen here? Application layer of device A will have a peer-to-peer protocol connection with application layer of device B. Similarly, presentation to presentation, session to session, and so on it goes till data link layer. So there will be all peer-to-peer protocol connections, and in between the layers there will be interfaces. You can see between level 7 and layer 6 you have an interface called as 7-6 interface, Between 6 and 5 you have 6 5 interface. So there are two kinds of things which runs, or one is horizontal, one is vertical. Vertical is like from A to B, and horizontal is like from between A, the layers which are there in the OSI model, in one side of the communication. So how the layer 7 of device A is communicating to presentation layer, which is layer 6 of device A only. So the interfaces are also very important, because they will help the layers to communicate, because both the layers have different kinds of certain responsibilities, certain sets of rules, certain sets of own what you can say boundaries. There are altogether two different things that they are doing in a modular level. They don't know each other at all, but it is the interface which will help it to communicate from one layer to another layer within the same device, right? So interfaces work at the level in the device only, in the vertical stack kind of thing, and the peer-to-peer protocol will work as per the horizontal things. Now coming to one special thing, which is the last layer, or you can say the first layer, that is the physical layer. Physical layer is then connected to the physical communication line, which is the transmission media uh, through which device A and B are communicating to each other. So you can see all the layers are having interfaces in between, and the physical layer of device A and device B is connected through the physical communication thing. And here the physical communication deals not only with the transmission media, but also a lot of things which are taken, like the analog to digital conversion, digital to analog conversion, a lot of things which we will discuss when we will discuss in detail the responsibilities of the physical layer. So this is how a typical system looks like when one device is communicating to other device in the OSI model, right? They can be directly connected, or they can be connected through some intermediate nodes. Is this okay? Is this a kind of imagination okay with you guys? How to imagine a OSI model in the entire networking framework? Nice. These are very important, and you will understand once you get to know these small stuff in your head. It is very easy to visualize the responsibilities of each layer. At the same time, you will be able to uh, determine some of the implicit meaning when it comes to the network communication, right? Now, whatever we discussed here, we have seen here the interfaces and peer-to-peer protocol. There are some lines on these things, and we will look at it so that if needed, you can write a good answer. Peer-to-peer process. So basically, at physical layer, the communication is direct, as I have told you. It is direct between the like with the physical communication. It is direct. Now here what happens, device A is sending a stream of bits to device B through the intermediate nodes, right? At the higher layers, which are above the physical layer, however, the communication must move down through layers on device A over to B and then back up to the layers. So basically what will happen, the sender who is sending will send it from the layer, physical layer, to the application layer, sorry, from the application layer to the physical layer, and then from the physical layer through the physical transmission media, it will go up from physical to the application layer in the device B. So basically from A, it will be application to physical, and from B, it will be physical to application. This is what we mean when we say at higher layers, however, communication must move down the layer on device A over to device B and then back up through the layers. Means back up through the layers from physical to application on the side of B. Each layer is sending in the sending device, means on the side A, adds its own information to the message it received from the layer just above it and passes the whole package to the layer below it. So it is like a kind of chaining structure. So whatever application layer is having, it will send that thing to the presentation layer. Presentation layer will add some information of its own and will send the message as it is to the session layer. Then so on, the message will go from the application layer to the physical layer, right? This is what is happening to the uh, packets or the informations which are from the sender side. Now at layer 1, when the layer 1, which is the layer 1 physical layer, when the physical layer is going to have all the things which are given to the physical layer from data link layer from the sender side, the entire package is converted to a form which can be transmitted over the transmission media, because physical medium is the responsibility, like how to communicate to the physical medium is the responsibility of the physical layer. And this entire thing, whatever the physical layer has received from the data link layer, has to be well coordinated with the transmission media in order to send it to the transmission media and in order to get it fetched at the receiving end also. So the entire package is converted to a form that can be transmitted to the receiving device, and at the receiving machine, which is the side B, the message is unwrapped layer by layer. It is not like it will be unwrapped at all at once. No, it will be unwrapped layer by layer, and every layer will unwrap the header of the correspondent layer from the sender side. So now what happens, basically the entire things move as like a stack. I'm showing you this thing because whatever we discuss make more sense with this diagram. You can see from A side you had some data. Let's say D7 is the data that you want to send, right? So D7 is the data that the user at A wants to send to the user at B. So what will happen? There will be a header attached to D7 named as H7. Why it is named as H7? Because application layer is attaching its header. So to whatever sides, I'm talking about sender side only. Whenever the data is transmitted from the sender side to the receiving side, the sender sides, each layer will add its own header to the data that it received from the previous layer and pass the information or pass that particular data with the addition of its own header to the next layer to which they are going to transfer the data. So what happens here? The start happens at application layer with data D7. Data D7 application layer will attach H7 as the header. Now this H7 and D7 all together will act as a data to the presentation layer, and we call it as D6. Now this D6 at presentation layer will be received from the application layer. This D6 will get a new header called as H6 because now the presentation layer will add its signature also. It is like a stamping, passing at every level. So when D7 is passed at application layer is stamped H7. H7, D7 all together sent to presentation layer. Presentation will perform its task and it will bind it with its own header that will be H6. Similarly, H6 plus D6 will be sent all together to the session layer. Session layer will check the data as D5 and will add its own header as DH5, right? And similarly, you can see till data link layer, H2 is added with all the data that is received as the name of D2 from the network layer. Now, when the data go from the data link layer to the physical layer, you can see there is a kind of conversion. Why? Because here the transmission media is allowing the data to be transported in some analog to like digital to analog or analog to digital, because you know that the transmission media is having the data that is transmitted in an analog fashion, in a wave like fashion, right? So this digital data that you have in the form of 0 and 1 needs to be converted so that it can be passed as an analog signal to the transmission media. Now this transmission media will take care of the data, will send it back to the will send it to the receiving end. Now again, before it get to the physical layer, again the conversion happened from the analog to digital. Now this digital data, whatever is being received at physical layer, is having all the seven headers, of uh, all the seven headers from the side A. Now what happens? Unwrapping will start. Here you can see H2 is being added at last, and H2 will be the first one to be removed because the point B or the side B is getting the data from physical to application layer, and here in the data link layer the H2 will be the first header that will be removed. Similarly, H3, H4, H5, H6 and H7 will be the layers which will be removed. So basically you can see a trend that the entire architecture is following a stack data structure, meaning H7 was the first header that was attached, and H7 is the last header that is removed when it is received at the receiving end. So this is what happens. In the nutshell, what is the entire picture? Every layer will add its own header in the sending side, and every layer will unwrap its own corresponding layers, its counterparts header on the receiving side. And this wrapping happens and unwrapping happens in a stacked manner, means the header which is attached at first will be the header which will be removed at the last. So that's why OSI model is also called to have an attribute of like stack. That is also like stack unwinding and winding protocol, or the model stack unwinding and winding model, not protocol. So this is how the system works. This is how each layer communicates through the vertical scenario and the horizontal scenario, right? Is this clear? Are you able to understand why it is called as a stack model? Are you able to visualize how that communication happen when we have any two devices in the system, how the headers are being attached, how the headers are being removed? This has to be clear, otherwise that will be a problem. Okay, now let's understand interfaces between the layers. It is just whatever I have said. I'll just read it so that if you have any problem in any line, I will explain it. Interface between layers: the passing of the data and the network information down through the layers of the sending device and back up through the layers at the receiving device is made possible by an interface between each pair of adjacent layers. We have seen it. Each interface defines the information and services a layer must provide for the layer above it. Well-defined interface and layer function provide modularity to the network. So what is the duty of the interface? It defines the information and services a layer must provide for the layer above it. So if physical layer and data link layer wants to communicate to each other, there has to be some kind of common ground which both of these agree to each other in order to make the entire system work. Okay, and these all things provide the kind of modularity. So if anything happens at the physical layer, interface is capable to not affect the upper layers, and physical layer can do the changes at its own. So it provides the modularity to every layer also due to the kind of insulation between the layers which is achieved through the interfaces. Now, organizations of the layers, how the layers are being organized. So all the 7 layers which we see in the OSI model can be further classified into 3 parts: layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3. So what like basically not layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, it is the subgroup. We can group these 7 layers into 3 subgroups. First group is layer 1, 2, 3. Second is 5, 6, 7, and third is layer 4. So you can imagine the entire OSI model being sub-layered into 3 parts: the lower 3 layers as one, the fourth layer as one, and fifth, sixth, and seventh layer as one layer part. Now, these 7 layers which are belonging to these subgroups, what are the special things, why they are placed in some special subgroups? Uh, that we will understand because of the responsibility that they share, the kind of area that they govern in the network are somehow lying in the same jurisdiction, you can say. So they are being placed all together. So here layer 1, 2, 3, which are physical data link and network layer, are called as network support layer. What are these called all together? They are called as network support layer. They deal with the physical aspect of moving of the data from one device to another, such as electrical specification, physical connection, physical addressing, transport timing, and reliability. So all these parameters, electrical specifications, physical connections, physical addressing, transport timing, and reliability, are the things that this particular subgroup of layer 1, 2, 3 is going to deal with. So that's why it is placed all together and named as network support layer, and it deals with the movement of the data. Now, what is the responsibility of the second subgroup, which is 5th, 6th, and 7, namely session, presentation, and application. It can be thought of as an user support layer because users are mostly interacting with the upper layer. When you sit on a system and you interact with a device, you are interacting at an application level. You are not interacting to any other layer. And all the kinds of user thing support that is given to a user in the OSI model is actually the responsibility of layer 5, 6, and 7. So that's why they are called as user support layers, and they allow the interoperability among different software systems running on 5, 6, and 7 layers. Now, we have covered layer 1, 2, 3. We have covered layer 5, 6, 7. Now, what about layer 4? So layer 4 is something which is in between all these two subgroups. And this particular thing links these two subgroups. That means whatever the transmission is happening at the lower layer has to go to the upper layer, and whatever is coming from the upper layer is to be implemented to the lower layer. So this is like layer 4 transport layer. It is acting just as a link to these two subgroups. Now, the upper part of OSI model is always mostly implemented in the softwares, meaning 5, 6, and 7. Lower layers are the combination of hardware and software as much we go down. The physical layer is almostly like very close to the hardware specifications. So as you go up in the OSI model, you are trying to have orientation towards the softwares. When you come down in the OSI model, you increase the orientation towards the hardware. So as we move from physical to application, we move from hardware to software. As we move from application to physical, we move from software to the hardware. So this is how the layers are organized, how the layers are being implemented, how they are connected to each other, what are the roles and responsibility of these layers as a group. That we have understood in the entire thing. Now we will discuss about the layers in the OSI model one by one in detail. We will discuss about all the 7 layers, and we will discuss what are the specific responsibilities. Some responsibility you don't need to understand fully right now. We will take them in detail in the classes, but some of them are just for the naming purposes. You should know, because there comes the question where there is some kind of responsibility, and that is asked, what is the which particular layer is responsible to perform this task, or this layer is responsible to perform which all these. And you can have an MCQ kind of thing or a paragraph based question as well. So that's why it is very important to know the responsibility of every layer. If you know the responsibility of every layer, you can say that entire OSI model is sorted for you. Okay, so the most important key takeaway from the entire class will be to understand how OSI functions, and then to understand the responsibility and keep it in mind layer by layer. What are the responsibilities of every layer? I'm repeating it again. It is the most important thing that you need to do for every layer. You should know. And then you should know the protocols responsible at every layer. What are the port numbers, and uh, what are the duties of those protocols, how they help a particular layer. That is the second aspect of every layer that you should be knowing. So, any doubts till now? Is this okay? If you feel like it is too much theoretical for you, which is actually not, you can take a pen and paper and you can start writing some short keywords for yourself. But remember, this is the most important thing that you need to focus on when it comes to networking. Okay, all good till now? Yes or no? Okay, let's understand the layers in the OSI model then. So first layer we are going to discuss is the physical layer. So physical layer, this coordinates the function required to carry a bit stream over the physical medium. So in the diagram you can see above the physical layer there is the data link layer. So the data will either come from the physical layer, the data come from the data link layer to the physical layer from the sender side. This must be clear by now. And the data go from physical layer to the data link layer at the receiving side. And in between the both physical layers, there is a transmission media. Now, this particular physical layer is required to carry certain functions, and these are basically dealing with the movement of the bits from one node to another node, or from one hop to another hop, like from sender side to the receiving side. This particular layer deals with the mechanical and electrical specification of the interface and the transmission medium. As we know that physical layer is closely related to the hardware, so the mechanical and electrical specification of the system, of the transmission media, of the interface, everything has to be dealt and has to be handled by the physical layer. It also defines the procedures and functions that a physical device and interface needs to perform for a transmission to occur. So what all things are required to have the kind of transportation, actual physical transportation, actual physical data transfer, that all is also defined by the physical layer. So this is the wholesome responsibility of the physical layer at, like, in a bigger picture, what the physical layer needs to do. So physical layer needs to do a lot of functions, but in the nutshell, it is responsible for the movement of the individual bits from one hop to the another hop. Okay, now let's understand what different set of modular responsibilities this physical layer is having. So the very first is the physical characteristics of the interface and the medium. So we know that there is an interface which is in the vertical manner and the medium which is in the horizontal manner. So both the things, the features of both these things have to be well understood, has to be well defined as per these two systems in the physical layer. So physical layer defines the features of the interfaces between the devices and the transmission media also. And it also defines the type of transmission medium. What is the type of transmission medium? Well, whether it will be wireless, whether it will be wired, whether it will be hybrid, whatever it can be. So these all things are the first point which physical layer deals with. Then representation of bits. So here basically we know that the data is being represented in 0 or 1, right? But this particular physical layer, whatever is having in the form of 0 and 1, it has no interpretation what it has to be sent, right? It is just 0 and 1 to the physical layer. Now, in order to get it transmitted, these bits must be encoded into signals, either electrical or optical, because you cannot send 0 or 1 in the system. If it is a fiber line, you have optical signals. If it is a normal wired or wireless, it is an electrical signal. So the data has to be transmitted either in an electrical form or in an optical form, and 0 and 1s are without any interpretation. So first it needs to be encoded into the signals. Whatever you have as in the stream of 0 and 1, that has to be converted to electrical and optical, and the physical layers define how the 0 and 1s are changed to the signal, how this change happens, how you need to convert the digital signal to the analog signal, be it be electrical or the optical signal. So this is the second responsibility, the representation of the bits. Now the data rate. Data rate is the rate basically by which the number of bits sent per second is defined. Like what is the capacity? Because physical layer is knowing the bottleneck of the transmission media. It is knowing the bottleneck of your interfaces. What is the maximum bandwidth of the system? What can be the maximum achievable throughput of the system? So keeping all those parameters in mind, it defines the data rate through which the data will be transmitted. Now, synchronization of bits means sender and receiver both will have different capacity of sending and receiving. So there should be a synchronization. Like if I am serving you food and I'm serving as a faster rate than the rate which you can eat, it is unsynchronized. And if I am giving you food at a very slower rate, which you can consume, it is also unsynchronized. So basically the synchronization has to be there between the sender and receiver so that the data loss does not happen, or the waiting time of any one of them is not so large. So synchronization is also very important. So to have a kind of similar, not the same, but at least similar bit rate, so that nobody is in waiting state for longer amount of time, or nobody is having a kind of data loss in the system, right? So for this, the clocks also needs to be synchronized, the clocks which are there in the sender and the receiving side. And this is usually done, you have seen in flip flops we have the first thing, that is the synchronization which happens between the devices when we send the data, otherwise the data will be lost. So this is the synchronization of bits. It is not only done by the physical layer, it is done with other technical aspects of the digital electronics as well. Now, line configuration. What is line configuration? So basically physical layer is concerned about the connection between the devices to the media also. So how A is connected to the transmission media, how the transmission media is connected to B. This is also something which physical layer needs to take into account. So it can be a point-to-point configuration where two physical devices are connected to a dedicated links. Like if I connect something, like if I connect my computer and your computer through a single wire, that will be point-to-point connection. Or it can be a multi-point communication configuration also, where a particular link is shared between the several devices. Like in different topology we know, like star topology, hub topology, there are different topologies. So those are like the things which we deal as in line configuration. So these are the primary five. Then we have two more, the physical topology. So physical topology also come under the jurisdiction of your physical layer, where the physical topology defines how the devices are to be connected to the network, means how they have to be placed in the network. And there are different set of topologies. uh, I think you might have been knowing these, but there is one line for every kind of topology. So you can have mesh topology where every device is connected to every other device. Star topology where the devices are connected through a central device. A ring topology where the devices are connected in a ring fashion. Bus topology where everything is connected through a common link. Or a hybrid one where you can have any combination of the above defined topologies. I will give you a PDF on the topology as well in order to understand more details about the topologies, because sometimes there comes easy question, MCQ questions, based on if I have n number of devices in the mesh topology, how many links I will need, or if I have n links in the mesh topology, how many number of devices are attached to it. So there are some small formulas which you can read through the PDF once I provide you the topology PDF. But remember, physical topology falls under the primary role of physical layer. Now the last is the transmission mode, how the transmission mode should happen. So you know there are three kinds of transmission mode: simplex, half duplex, and full duplex. In simplex mode, what happens, the communication is like this, where only one device can send and the other can only receive, like TV and the remote communication. So that signals can be sent only from the remote to the TV. TV cannot send any signal back to the remote, right? So this is the simplex mode where only one can speak and other has to listen. Then there comes the half duplex mode where the two parties can speak and can listen to each other, but one at a time only, like walkie talkie. You might have seen movies where one person says something on walkie talkie, then other person says received or copy, and then the other person says and the first person listen. So walkie talkie is the example of half duplex mode of communication, where both of them can speak, both of them can listen, but one at a time. Both cannot speak or listen at the same time, right? And the third mode is the full duplex mode, like in a mobile phone. You the parties who are communicating to each other can communicate to each other at the same time, can say anything to each other at the same time, and can also listen the data at the same time. So what kind of transmission mode the device A and B are going to have in the network, that is defined by the physical layer, which is like either simplex, half duplex, or full duplex. So all the physical level things or the physical hardware related stuff or the protocols, these are defined by the physical layer. So these are the 7 responsibilities. There is no other responsibility that you need to know for the physical layer. Are these clear? You have to remember the keywords here. Good. Now data link layer. The second layer is the data link layer just above the physical layer. So now data link layer will receive the data from the network layer and will give the data to the physical layer from the sender side. At the receiver side, it will get the layer from the physical layer and will send the data to the network layer. Now, the data link layer transforms the physical layer a raw transmission facility. So whatever is being done at physical layer, data link layer add a kind of what you can say transformation to the things which this physical layer is having, and that is to have a reliable link. So whatever is being done at physical layer, data link layer is having the responsibility to make it appear error free to the upper layers, that is the network layer. So data link layer is actually dealing with the data, and when there is the data, there can be errors. There needs to be something which needs to be fixed. There needs to have some kind of protection of the data. All these things will be taken by the data link layer. Now, what are the responsibilities of the data link layer? One more thing, data link layer is further classified into 2 sublayers, which we will discuss when we will discuss data link layer in great detail. The 2 sublayers, you can make a note of it. The 2 sublayers of the data link layer are MAC layer and LLC layer, link layer control, and the MAC layer. MAC layer is responsible for the addressing, physical addressing of the devices. Link layer control is responsible for the error correction and detection. So this data link layer has 2 set of responsibilities. One, the physical addressing, and second, the error control and the frame control. So error control and frame control fall under LLC, and the addressing thing fall under the MAC layer. These are the 2 sub layers of the data link layer. Now, responsibilities. The very first responsibility is the framing. So whatever is the data which is being there as in the form of a stream of bits, like a stream of 0 and 1, that has to be not taken like 0 and 1 only. It has to be managed. It has to be put as some kind of a better format, and that format is called as frames in the data link layer. One more thing to note here, every layer will have its own PDU, which is known as packet data unit. Every layer will at every layer the data that you have will be called with a different name. That is called as PDU of that layer. So the PDU of the layer data link layer is called as frame. The one with the network is called as packet. So when I will talk about the same data that is being transferred from A to B is and when I will talk in the context of network layer, I will call it as a packet. When I will talk about it in the transport layer, I will call it as a segment. When I will talk about it in the data link layer, I will call it as frame. So remember these specific vocabulary, that which layer is having what kind of PDU. So framing is the responsibility of data link layer, and that's why the frames of the streams of the bits are made at data link layer. Second responsibility is the physical addressing. Physical addressing means how it is basically dealing with the MAC sublayer, and these frames are to be distributed to different systems on the network. Data link layer adds its own header to the frame to define the sender or receiver of the frame. So whenever a data is being transmitted, there should be 2 information with that data. Who is the sender? Who is the receiver? So basically, these 2 information has to be there in the frame, and that when done with the physical addressing by the data link layer is called as physical addressing responsibility. So if the frame is intended for a system outside the sender's network, the receiver address is the address on the device that connects the network to the next one. So this is just like physical addressing, normal like addressing, posting the data. Now the third one is the flow control. Flow control is the rate at which the data are absorbed by the receiver okay, is less than what the data is produced at this end as the sender. So basically the receiver is not able to consume what is being sent. So here the data link layer imposes a flow control mechanism in order to avoid overwhelming of the receiver. So if I keep talking, let's say I'm talking in, let's say, normal 1x mode right now, and if I start talking in 2x mode or 3x mode, you will not be able to understand anything. So what is being done here? I am talking at a speed which is way more than the grabbing speed from your side. So you will be overwhelmed. And in order to avoid this, there will be a kind of flow control mechanism, which is also called as buffering. If you can see, when you see something and the data is not being transmitted in a synchronized fashion from the sender and the receiver, you see buffering of the data. So that is what is called as flow control. Now, error control. Error control is basically controlling any manipulations with the data. So whenever the data is transmitted from one to another, there is a chance that the data might be corrupted, the data might be lost, the data might be damaged. So all these things can happen, and these things deal with the error control. And error control is the responsibility of data link layer. So data link layer will check whether there is an error or not. If there is any error, the error control mechanisms will be called to handle that error, and things will be taken care. Then the access control. Access control means whenever the systems are communicating to each other through the same link, the data link layer protocols take necessary action that which device has a control over the link at a given time. So which device should have the control of the link in order to communicate in the system. That is talked as the access control. Who is going to have the access? That is something which we will take as an access control policy of the data link layer. Is this clear? Then we will discuss about the hop to hop delivery. Okay. Now, hop to hop delivery, what we mean by hop to hop delivery, it is just like sending data to the next router or the next system. So you can see, let's say we want to send the data from A to D. So how the A to D are connected? A to D are connected through a link from A to B, where A is the system and B is the router. Then B and C are connected, which both are router through a link. Then B and E are also connected. Then C and D are connected through a link. So now hop to hop delivery will happen like how the data from A, which needs to be sent to D, will first go from A to B. So here the data which is sent from A to B will have the sender address of A, receiving address of B. Now when the data is at B, the sending address will be B and receiving address will be C, so that the data can go from B to C, and then from C to D, the data will have the sender as C and the receiver as D, and the data is finally transmitted to the side of D. So this is called as hop to hop delivery. Means in order to send the data from A to D, you need three hop connection: A to B, B to C, and C to D. So three hop count means three jumps are required for the data to be transmitted from A to D depending upon the system. So in this system, you have three links. So three jumps are required in order to connect A and D. Okay. So this is what we called as the hop to hop delivery in the data link layer. Now I will give you the link for the next class, and there we will start with the network layer. Okay, so we have this network layer now. So we have this network layer now. Let's understand what we have to deal in the network layer. So network layer is the third layer from the bottom, and we know that the data will be coming from transport, will be sent to data from sender, will be taken from data link layer, and will be sent to transport layer at the receiving end. This is what we know. Now this network layer is responsible for source to destination delivery. Remember this name. Source to destination is the responsibility of the network layer. So basically the network layer is like you will have different names, like hop to hop delivery. That was the responsibility of the data link layer. Then network layer is having the responsibility of source to destination. Then transport layer will have different responsibility, and every layer will have different responsibility. Like at what extent there has to be the responsibility of sending and receiving. So source to destination, S to D, is the responsibility of the network layer across the multiple network links. Now, in the data link layer, we oversee the delivery of the packet between the two systems on the same link. The network layer ensures that each packet get its point of origin to the final destination. So you know that when we were discussing about this particular diagram, hop to hop delivery, we saw that when the data was going from A to B, the source address was A and the destination address was B. But the data has to transfer from A to D, right? So how these B and C and D will get to know that the data will come from A to D? That is the responsibility of the network layer. Network layer will guide that this packet needs to go from A to D, and data link layer will make this happen with the local deliveries between the hop to hop from A to B, B to C, and C to D. So this is the area. The seeing of the view of the network from the network layer is different. What a view of network appears from the data link layer. So this is what we mean when we say source to destination. And this is the line second, whereas the data link layer oversee the delivery of the packet between two systems on the same network or link. The network layer ensure that each packet gets its point of origin to the final destination. This network layer is responsible for the delivery of the individual packet from the source host to the destination host. Remember this. Now the responsibilities are like logical addressing, routing, and then we will see how the source to destination delivery happens. So the very first responsibility of the network layer is the logical addressing. What is meant by logical address and what is meant by physical address? First, you should understand the difference between these two. Let's talk about your computer or your laptop or any other network device. Every network device, when it gets connected to the network, it has two kinds of addresses: IP address and MAC address. MAC address is the address which your device get when it is being manufactured. So when the device is being manufactured at the factory, the device will have a MAC address, and that is called as the physical address of the device. When the device is not connected to any system, it will not have any IP address. When the system get connected to the network, it will get an IP address. IP address will keep on changing if you change the network. If you change the network, the IP address will change. That's why IP addresses are dynamic in nature. MAC address will never change, and that's why it is called as physical address. Physical address will never change, but logical address might change. This logical address, which is the IP address in the case of networking, is the responsibility of network layer. So logical addressing is the responsibility of the network layer, which is the IP address, Internet Protocol address in the system. Physical addressing is the implementation of data link layer. We have seen it. It handles the addressing problems locally, means once it is between the physical addresses. If the packet pass the network boundaries, then we need a different kind of addressing system to differentiate between the sources and the destination, and that has been done using the IP addresses, and that is taken care by the network layer. So here the network layer will add its own header to the packet coming from the upper layer. Also will include the logical address of the sender and the receiver. So what is the sender's IP address? What is the receiver's IP address? Based on that, when the packet go beyond the boundary of a certain network, the communication happen logically through the IP addresses. So these are the things which are taken care by the network layer when it comes to the logical addressing. Now routing is the second responsibility. What is routing? Routing is just like guiding the packet to packet to transfer or to get transmitted across the networks, means network of networks. So you know that our system is not just having one, like if you want to communicate to any particular Google server or any particular server, you don't know which server you're going to getting connected to. whether it will be the first local or the second local or proxy server, whatever it will be. So there is a network of networks in which we are communicating nowadays. Routing is the one which will take care of this particular scenario, that how do the system packet get transmitted from source to destination through different routers using the routing algorithms. There are different routing algorithms which a system needs to implement, and according to those algorithms, the entire transmission of the packets will happen. Okay, so you can take the help of routers, you can take the help of switches, you can take the help of gateways, you can take help of different things, and you can prepare a routing mechanism, routing algorithm. And as per that routing algorithm, every router connected in the system will have a routing table, and according to that table it will be decided that what has what will be coming to the system, and to which system or to which particular new um, delivery should happen, like to which it has to be delivered and from what source it is coming. And that will be all taken with the help of the routing algorithm and the routing table, which is going to be decided by the network layer at the routers, which will be like a transmission nodes, intermediate nodes connecting the different sources and destinations. So these are the two responsibilities of the network layer. Now, when I say source to delivery, source to destination delivery, what it means? Taking the same example, from A to D, we need to transfer something. Now we can see that in the stack we have included one more layer, that is the network layer. You can see here, when the things go from source to destination, what is the range? Let's say the data wants to get transferred from A to F. So now from A to F, you can see source to destination is the range, which is from A to F. This source to destination delivery is the responsibility of the network layer. Then you see the hop to hop delivery, hop to hop, three hop to hop delivery to make the system, to make the transfer go from A to F. In this case, let's say, so three hop to off, which is the duty of the data link layer, and one source to destination delivery, which is the responsibility of the network layer. So you can see here what is happening in the stack, how the stack is getting modified at every layer, like at every system, what is the view of A, what is the view of F, what is the view of B, and what is the view of E. And this is how the source to delivery things, source to destination delivery happens. Is this clear? Okay. Now, transport layer. So what is the transport layer duty? So data will come from session, will go to network from the sender side. In the receiving side, it will come from the network and go to the session layer. Now, this transport layer is responsible for process to process delivery of the entire message, right? Data link layer, hop hop. Network layer, source to destination. Transport layer, process to process, or end to end delivery as well. Many books you will find end to end as the word, not process to process. So both mean same, either process to process or end to end delivery. A process in an application program running on a host. So basically, it is just like a normal process which is running on either side of the hosts. The network layer oversees source to destination delivery of individual packets. It does not recognize any relationship between those packets. So what happens when you send something from the when you send something only till the network layer, the packets which are being sent through the router and through the entire networking system do not share any kind of relationship between them. So the thing can be like, if you send like if you send 10 byte, let's say 10 packets, then there should be an order in which those packets should be received at the receiving end. Network layer does not care about it. Network layer says my job is to send the packet from the A to B. I don't care in what order they are being sent, in what order they are being received. Transport layer says I will take care in what order they should be received. so that everything is in sync. So what happens here? It treats each one independently, as each piece belongs to a separate message, whether it does not or not. So basically everything is being taken as a separate thing in the network layer. But in the transport layer, it holds the entire message in act and in order to check both error control and flow control at source to destination level. So basically what happens, delivery is done from source to destination by network. Now reassembling of the data, checking of the data, these all things will be taken care by the transport layer, meaning all the three layers below the transport layer, network, data link and physical layer, which are the network sublayer, whatever they have done, all things will be well balanced at the transport layer, so that the layers above it, that is 5, 6 and 7, can utilize the data properly and will have the data without any error. So this is what we mean when we actually subclassified the entire 7 layer into 3 sublayers, how the layer 4 was acting as a link between the layer 5, 6 and 7 and 1, 2 and 3. Now let's understand the responsibility of transport layer. I think there are not much, only 5 responsibilities, but they are very important. One is the service point addressing. So basically what happens, in one computer there will be several points or several programs or processes running, and our transport layer is interested to do the process to process or end to end delivery, means which process should consume what data, that is being done. So for this reason, the source of delivery, the source to destination delivery means delivery not only from one computer to the next one, but also to the specific running processes which are running from one specific computer to the another specific program of the computer. So it has to be like end to end, handling the things from the correct person to the correct person, not only to the address but going inside the address and handling the data to the processes. So this is what is being meant by service point addressing, means process to process delivery. Now segmentation and reassembling. Here everything which you have in the transport layer will be called as a segment. So this message what you have received or what you will be sending is will be called as a segment. This particular segment will be transferred from one to another uh, network devices, and it needs to be reassembled because it will be received out of sync. So whatever is being received first, like if a message is broken into 10 parts, all the 10 parts has to be received. Now those 10 parts have to be reassembled so that the message can be correctly determined at the destination. Otherwise, if the message is being received in an out of sync fashion, what will happen, it will make no sense to the receiving end that what message has been sent. So the meaning of the data will be lost, right? So segmentation and reassembling is the second responsibility of the transport layer. Then comes the connection control. Connection control means whether the kind of connection has to be connection oriented or connectionless. We will discuss this particular thing when we will discuss TCP IP and the UDP protocol. So transport layer can be either connectionless or connection oriented. When I say connectionless, I mean that you transfer whatever you transfer and you don't care whether it is transferred or it is being lost in the system. But when I say connection oriented, I mean three-way handshaking of the TCP, where the sender and receiver gets to know whether the data that they have sent is being received or not. So whenever you say, let's say you send a mail to a wrong, incorrect email address, which may be invalid, you get a mail delivery message from the mail provider that this address does not exist and you can't send anything to this address. So this is what is being handled in a connection oriented environment. But if it was a connection less, you will never get a delivery message whether it was delivered or it wasn't delivered. So once the message is delivered, you get it in a sent item. If it is not delivered, you will get either a message that it is not valid, or you will get it in an outbox that waiting for it to get delivered. So these all informations are handled using connection oriented protocols, which is TCP/IP. And UDP, which is user datagram protocol, is an connection less protocol, which does not care whether the things are being sent or not. It just says I have sent it, I don't care whether it is has received, whether the receiver has received, or it is being lost in the system itself. So that's what we mean by connection control. We will discuss about it in detail once we go for the transport layer, TCP/IP versus UDP. Then there is the next thing, that is the flow control. So here flow control is also taken into account so that no data is being lost. So that link is utilized fully, no data is lost, and this is actually being done with the help of window size. We will discuss that also when we will discuss TCP/IP versus UDP protocol. Now, error control is also one of the responsibility of the transport layer. And here what happens, error control is performed at the process to process rather than as a single link. So one process who is going to receive and the one process who is going to send, the error control mechanisms are applied at that level, not at the link levels. Link level are something which is being taken care by different other layers, but the process to process error control is actually taken care with the help of TCP, with the help of transport layer. So this is what we do in the transport layer for the error control. Is this okay? Error control and okay. Now session layer is the next layer, and you don't have much things to worry about it. So the services provided by the first three layers, that is the physical data and network, are not sufficient for some processes. Some processes require network dialog controller basically, and it helps the systems to maintain and synchronize the interaction between different communicating systems, and for that session layers comes into the picture. The very first thing that it handles is the dialog control, and the second thing that it handles is the synchronization. So dialog control means whenever the session layers is allowing the two systems to enter into a dialogue, means you are now allowed to communicate. So it allows the communication between the two processes to take place either in different transmission mode, means half duplex or full duplex or simplex, whatever. So what kind of dialogue you want to get into, that particular thing is being decided, that particular thing is being controlled by the session layer. That is the first responsibility. Second is the synchronization, means adding synchronization point, or uh, like how to synchronize between the two parties who are communicating to each other. Adding checkpoints, adding streams of data, buffering, all those things are also being taken care at the session layer. Now, presentation layer. Presentation is also one of the important layer, and it deals with the syntax and semantics of the data which is being exchanged between two systems. When we say syntax and semantics, we mean these simple things: translation, encryption, compression. What it means? Translation means when the two systems are going for exchanging the information in the form of characters or in the form of strings, or one second, there has been information. Yeah. So basically, whenever there is a kind of transfer uh, of the data, in which format it is being happening, what is the syntax, what is the writing medium, it can be bit of streams which is transmitted, character strings, numbers, what it is actually, because the encoding mechanism of two systems can be different. Like I might be having a Dell system, you might be having an HP system, somebody else might be having a route. So different devices have different encoding and decoding mechanism, and now the presentation layer comes to take care of these particular stuff, small stuff, like translation. If I speak X language, you speak Y language, we need a translator in between to communicate with each other. This is something which is taken care in the syntax and semantic attribute of the presentation layer in the translation duty. So here the presentation layer at the sender side changes the information from sender dependent format into a common format. Okay, and then this common format is taken at the receiving end, and it will convert from the common format to the receiver dependent format. So this is the kind of translation, one from format which is being understood by A to a common format, from common format to a format which is understood by system B. Now, encryption. What is encryption? Encryption is, you might be knowing, encryption and decryption. Both are the responsibility of the presentation layer, where you want to add a security feature to your data. And it is basically sensitive whenever you are sending some sensitive information like passwords or authentication details or list of some sensitive information which is confidential, you don't want it to be read or being taken by any other person, in order to ensure the privacy of the data. So encryption is the one of the tool through which we actually get uh, the system information intact. So here what will happen, you will apply a encryption technique over the system where you will change the data, how it look like when it get transferred from the sender to the receiver over the network. So what happens? You change the format, you change the way how the data looks through some algorithm that is called as encrypting algorithm. And when the data is received at the receiving end will apply a decrypting algorithm and will get the original data through the process of decryption. So if I want to, let's say, hi to you, and I don't want anybody else to know how I say hi to you, I can say, I will say, uh, let's say, I will say A to you. So I have converted the meaning of hi to A, and this thing only you and me know, so that we can communicate over each other. So whenever I want to say hi, I will say A. This is encryption. Whenever you will receive A, you will understand it is hi. So this is decryption, encrypting and decrypting the data. Now, compression. What is compression? So whenever the data is being sent, we want to compress the data in order to save the network bandwidth. We want it to be more faster. Uh, so we apply compression techniques so that the data, huge data, audio data, video data, these can be sent seamlessly over the network. So compression techniques are applied, and the data is being decompressed at the receiving end so that the quality of the data is also not reduced. Now, the last layer is the application layer. So application layer is the layer through which the user communicates, or we as a human communicate to the entire OSI model. It is mostly at the software level, and it provides the user with the support and the interfaces of the services like emails, remote file accessing, shared database management, and access to the distributed information services and the systems. Here, the main thing that you need to know is the network virtual terminal, NVT. This is a software version of a physical terminal, and it allows the user to log in onto the remote host. So if I want to take a remote access of your system, I will have to get an network virtual terminal which will appear that I am accessing your system as I'm accessing my physical system. But that point of connection between your system and my system is not a physical version, it is a software version. So it is called as network virtual terminal, right? And you can use a network virtual terminal in your VPNs also, in your remote accessing things also. And to do it, application whatever applications you want to access through it, or you want to like who are allowing you to have a NVT thing, will create a software emulation of a network terminal at the remote host. So basically at the remote host at which you are trying to gain an access to will be created with a software emulation of the terminal, and that particular thing you will get access to, and your computer starts talking to that terminal, and that terminal will give you the access to your uh, remote host. And the remote host believe it is communicating with one of its own terminal, and it allow the users to log in. So my system will feel that it is not a hardware, like it is not a something which is happening at remote level. It is as similar how you operate in any system physically. So that is the virtual kind of delusion which is created using network virtual terminal. So these are the responsibility of the application layer. Some more responsibilities are like file transfer and access management. File transfer and access management, it allow to access the files over the remote host. Once you have the remote host, you can access and retrieve the file, you can copy the file, you can put some files, all these things. Then the mail services, like sending the mails from one server to another server, SMTP, POP protocols, MIME protocol, these all works at the mail services. Then directory services, FTP and telnet, these all things will come also. FTP and telnet will come at file transfer. Directory services will come for the database, basically how to access a certain level of the database and all those things. So all the user related stuff through which the user is going to access the services or the system in the network, that is taken care with the help of application layer in the OSI model. Now, whatever we have discussed, in order to put everything in a nutshell, this is the small diagram through which you can remember what every layer is doing. So this is kind of a summary for the OSI model. Physical, to transmit bits over medium, to provide mechanical and electrical specification. Data link layer, to organize bits into framing, and in order to provide hop on hop delivery. Network, to move from source to destination and provide inter-networking. Transport, to provide reliable process to process message delivery and error recovery. Session, to establish and manage and terminate the sessions. Presentation, to translate, encrypt and compress the data. Application, to allow access to the network resources at the user level. So this is all what we have understood in detail. We need to understand more details about the transport layer, network layer and data link layer. Other than that, physical layer, session layer, presentation layer and application layer are done. I will provide you a PDF on the protocols. You can read those protocols which are defined at which layer, what ports they need, and that is only theoretical. You just read it 1 or 2 times and you are good to go. So that is all that we need to do in the remaining part of the networking. I hope that is clear. And you guys are having a clear understanding of the OSI model and the responsibility of every layer. Is that okay? Any doubts? If no doubts, I would like to close the session if everything is okay. Otherwise, if there is any doubt, you can put it in the chat. Everything's good. Can we close the session now? Okay. Thank you, everyone.